From 1951 until 1955, Edward R. Murrow, a journalist, hosted a daily show called This I Believe. He asked famous folks and not so famous folks to share in 5 minutes their personal beliefs in the midst of their daily lives. Whether those lives seemed perfect from the outside or whether those lives had been through many tough times, each would share a small reflection. Cabbies, celebrities, actors, writers, electricians. In its heyday, it reached 35 million people. And National Public Radio brought it back for a while. I don't really know its current status. But what I do know is that it's good to visit your deeply held beliefs and values periodically, to see where you are, to see how you've changed your mind, to see what might be the spirit that is animating you towards the next thing that is calling you. To say with full honesty, I don't know about this, but I think about this and I believe this to be true. We can't know all of it, but there are some core things that we know. This is one thing you might conclude that I find trustworthy. This is one thing that has never left me. Now, for me, one of the lines that I give to podcasters when they interview me is at the end of my bio, Roger still believes that grace and humor will save us all. I mean, I really do believe that. Humor, so we don't take life, beautiful and bruised as it is, too seriously, and grace so that we can stay connected to those who make up so much meaning and purpose in our lives, our closest friends, our loved ones, our neighbors, our friends, our communities. So we're invited, when we think about a "this I believe" statement, to think of the philosophies, values, and attitudes that shape our lives. As a hospital chaplain, I ask so many people with deep faith, people with no named faith, people with multiple faiths, some who stayed with the faith of their childhood and some who left as adults, people of all kinds. What do you make of it all? Maybe they just gotten a bad diagnosis and they felt like talking. Maybe they were close to death and on their minds were their siblings and their parents and their great loves. Thinking about their regrets and accomplishments and friends and communities. What do you make of it all? And so many times I heard, it's a cliche, but friends, family, faith, my great love. I believe in the ocean, one person told me. Grown up in Connecticut, said he got out to Colorado as soon as he could. Life is one wave after another, and low tides and high tides, beautiful in the morning, beautiful when the moon shines upon it. Another guy who lived way up in the hills above Woodland Park said, every day I feed the animals in my little area, squirrels and deers and birds. I leave stuff for them and they come around and they keep me company. I believe in feeding the animals. If our class on the Transcendentalist is any indication, a lot of us believe in the power of nature to heal. Now, the rock band REM wrote a song called I Believe, in which they said, I believe my shirt is wearing thin and change is what I believe in. From what I've heard from many of you, a lot of us believe in change too, a change so that the circle of care is broader and broader, and a change towards greater human dignity, greater human rights, greater flourishing of all. We tend as Unitarian Universalists to not accept established answers to the questions, and we're fiercely independent about what questions animate us in our efforts of understanding. So even in our spiritual and religious lives, we believe in change. One change agent that I admire a great deal, Patrisse Cullors, who started the Black Lives Movement, says this: I believe in community, the role community plays in change, and the role change plays in community. Whenever I'm in conflict with another person in my life, I choose to be in conversation with that person. The moment I feel impacted by someone, I check in with myself to be clear what I'm feeling. Then a conversation to practice a new way of being in relationship with them. My response reflects my belief that we must have a bigger vision for our communities and the people who make up our communities. I believe in coming back into the community and trusting that modeling grounded responses versus reactive vitriol will allow for an opening inside of the relationship that is then replicated outside the larger movement. A lot of us, Edward R. Murrow said in his introduction, have traded in our deepest values for bitterness, for division, for cynicism, and a large helping of despair. And you know that old song that we sing a lot based on the Rumi quote. It says, ours is no caravan of despair. So we're invited to think about what really animates us. When I think of that old Rabbi Jesus, and he said there's a narrow path and there's a broad path, and on the narrow path there aren't as many people, and on the broad path there are lots and lots of people. On that narrow path, I think it's living in a place of our deepest values, letting them shine forth, no matter what you call yourself or don't call yourself. And on the deep path is the sleepwalking of despair and cynicism and lack of hope. Passivity, division. Carl Sandburg, one of my heroes, because I'm from Galesburg, Illinois, and he was too, said this: I believe in getting up in the morning with a serene mind and a heart holding many hopes. I believe in platitudes when they serve, especially that hard-worn antique, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. I believe that free people over the world cherish the earth as cradle and tomb, the handiwork of their maker, the possession of the family of all souls. I believe freedom comes the hard way, by ceaseless groping, toil, struggle, even by fiery trial and agony. A professor, Dr. Charles Henry Parrish, the first African American to be appointed to the faculty of a public Southern and predominantly white university at the University of Louisville in the Department of Sociology from 59 to 64, said this: I'm the son of a Baptist minister. I've often wondered why my religious beliefs were not more orthodox. Undoubtedly, it was the sort of person my father was. Rather than hearing what he said in his sermons or pamphlets, it was the way he lived that influenced me most. He'd have pictures of the Pope around his house growing up because his father's secretary was a Catholic and he wanted to honor that. And always they opened their home to non-paying guests. My mother would do the necessary things to make them comfortable. His father, he says, had a rough life. It was a life of struggle. To the ordinary difficulties encountered was added the handicap of his racial origin. He had to fight continuously against racial intolerance. And what became clear to me, this old professor said, what became increasingly significant for me was that he fought without bitterness. So far as I know, he never hated anybody. He must have believed in the essential goodness of people. I have come, he says, to share that belief. Eleanor Roosevelt, when she shared with Edward R. Murrow, said, I don't know whether I believe in a future life. I believe that all that you go through here must have some value. Therefore, there must be some reason. And there must be some going on. How exactly this happens, I've never been able to decide. There is a future, that I'm sure of, but how, I don't know. And I came to feel that it didn't really matter very much, because whatever the future held, you'd have to face it when you came to it. Just as whatever life holds, you have to face it exactly the same way. And the important thing was that you never let down doing the best that you're able to do. And Rosa Parks said, I believe you must respect yourself before others can respect you. I want to be remembered as a person who stood up to injustice, who wanted a better world for young people, and I want to be remembered as a person who wanted to be free. I still believe there can be a day when we have all of us, true freedom. A day when we can all get along regardless of our race. It's not a dream. It's alive within the ability of all of us. This I believe. I believe in jazz. This is Roger Butts speaking now. I believe in jazz, structure and improv, call and response. I believe in healing. I've seen it so often among many I've known, among strangers, in my own life. I believe in story, once upon a time. I believe everything you ever needed to know could be found in a parable. I believe with the psalmist that we, you and I and all of us, can know the beauty of the Lord in the land of the living. I believe in dreams. I believe in dreamers. I believe in something bigger than me. Call it God if you'd like. I will. I believe in a God, the name of which is many and never to be known, but one that I call love, love that never lets us go. Fellow sufferer who understands. Holy Spirit, Spirit of life, the inner voice, that still small voice, the center who listens and knows. The God found in the creative moment, the one who calls us to our best self. I believe more than anything in people. People who grow, people who snore, people who curse, people who build and give, people who fail, people who love and love again, people who know wisdom occasionally. I believe in the Chesapeake Bay and the sea. I believe in the rising sun and my children's smiles, and I believe in you. I believe in life. I believe that anyone at any time can know the holy way, that each life is holy for its own sake. We're what we've got, and I believe we have more power and beauty and love and compassion than we realize. This I believe.